Greetings to everybody here today joining the Innovation Speaker Series. My name is Ashley Anthony. I am the Education and Communication Manager at Climate Reality Project Canada. This Innovation Speaker Series is in partnership with the Atlantic Canada Climate Network, Climate Reality Canada, and of course, the Canadian Environmental Network. We've all come together for this project to showcase cutting edge emergent technologies and their potential to advance climate solutions and create new opportunities. Before we begin, I want to first respectfully acknowledge and recognize the relationship that First Nation, Inuit, Métis have across Canada and the lands that we all, as Canadians, live on and enjoy. The Climate Reality Project is a pan-Canadian organization, but our office is located on land which has long served as a site of meeting and exchange amongst Indigenous people, including the Haudenosaunee and the Anishinaabe nations. Of course, we recognize, honor, and respect that these nations have been the traditional stewards of the lands and waters for which we are on today. I personally am coming to you from Mi'kma'ki, the territory of the Mi'kmaq, comprised of present day Nova Scotia, Prince Edward Islands, and parts of Quebec. I myself are in New Brunswick, and of course, it includes Newfoundland and Maine. So, this is the traditional unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq, Wolastoqiyik, Passamaquoddy, Penobscot, and Abenaki nations, or the Wabanaki Confederacy, as well as Innu and Inuit peoples. And of course, the Mi'kma'ki have been connected to these lands and waters for thousands of years and continue to be so in the present. But this reminds us that each of the 634 different First Nation communities, the 53 Inuit communities, and 8 Métis settlements across Canada all have a unique historical, cultural, spiritual, and environmentally sustainable connection to the land that their people and ancestors have inhabited since time immemorial. So we take a moment every meeting to encourage all Canadians and visitors to these lands to learn about and regularly acknowledge the historic and current relationships that exist between the unceded land on which we live and enjoy and prosper, and of course, the First Nations, Inuit, and Métis that have stewarded this beautiful land. We also encourage all Canadians to consider how they can personally contribute to Canada's reconciliation with Indigenous peoples. If you're joining from Indigenous lands, which most of you I guarantee are, I invite you to reflect on this prompt from Naomi Sayers. If you're a non-Indigenous person, that land acknowledgements aren't enough, or you want to do something more or better, start describing your relationship to the land. Where did your family come from? How did you end up here today? And what did you benefit, lose, or gain? Now, the Innovation Speaker Series aims to foster collaboration again and knowledge exchange amongst diverse stakeholders passionate about addressing climate change. And what brings us here today is our wonder to learn about this incredible and ethical emerging AI powered system that can be used to predict wildfires before they can occur and explore the importance of wildlife perfection or protection, wildlife prediction, not perfection or protection, wildlife prediction, detection, and response in Canada. So I'm very grateful for you all today here. And of course, we have Mihao Ibin. Mihao is the Chief Technological Officer at the organization called SkyScout AI Innovations. It's a global platform that combines proprietary AI and image processing technology to predict, prevent, and protect against wildfires. Mihao is also a leader in disaster resilience research at the British Columbia Institute of Technology, where he mentors students through innovative research projects and focuses on merging academic innovation with industry needs. So, welcome, Mihao. Thank you for being here with us.
Thank you very much, Ashley. Happy to be here. And for folks in our online setting, welcome everyone. For folks that will be watching later on, thank you for having the time. And let me share the screen and start the presentation. I have around half an hour of presentation. Afterwards, I will have live demo of the tool, and then we'll move to the questions or things that we want to discuss at the end of the presentation. If there will be anything that comes up during the presentation, just let me know in the chat. I should be able to see your comments in the chat as well. So let me screen and What I would like to present today is AI in the sky. So drone-based wildfire detection prevention. We'll be doing live demo of prevention aspect, but I'm also going to talk how we envision fighting wildfires as the entire life cycle, from prevention to detection to post-wildfire protection for further occurrences or next wildfire seasons. Thank you again for the great introduction. I will then skip introducing myself and I will move to the first video that I want to just, put the little bit of context why this problem is so large and how is this a huge problem for our communities. And let me reshare with the sound. I didn't share with sound, so let me just share it again with the sound. Okay, you should be able to hear the sound in a moment.
It's a surreal cleanup in Peachland, BC. Bright red retardant on the roofs and decks of these homes, a reminder of how close this fire came.
It was just flames everywhere, right?
The wildfire that ignited along Highway 97 Wednesday afternoon grew fast, fanned by wind, heat, and steep terrain, forcing hundreds of people out of their homes and choking out traffic on one of the Okanagan Valley's busiest routes.
You could lose everything in a matter of minutes, and this fire spread really quickly.
We're from Alberta. We have a second home here, so it's kind of scary for us. This is our first time that we've been in
that was
an
scary.
alert.
Officials say it started with a vehicle fire on the roadside, then raced uphill. The fire has since calmed but remains out of control. The mayor, who is also evacuated, says residents acted quickly and fire.
And just to not watch the entire video, that's the most important sentence just happened is we cannot stop natural events such as lightning. We cannot stop things like human errors. But what we can do and what this presentation is trying to discuss is we're going to show how we can work on prevention aspects. So we get this 3 to 6 months window to work with. And I see that I just opened the chat on the side. I saw that Ashley just posted. So again, if there will be any questions, feel free to post in the chat as we go. So to put another thing, 2026 wildfire season was already started. So on May 4th, around Coltis Lake, Jade Bay wildfire was declared out of control at 6:40 a.m. 14 firefighters were deployed with helicopter from the Coastal Fire Center. It took one full day to contain the fire. This is one of the driest winters that we had in Canada past many years. I'm talking about this season. The snowpack is not that large, and the fire season and the heat temperature, all of it makes it more prone to the events of starting the fire, trying to fight. So what can we do about all of this? In today's session, I just talked a little bit about the wildfire challenge in Canada. I'm going to show what we're building at BCT as our 3-stage approach and how to deal with this as a complex closed loop approach. We're going to talk about validation case studies with SkyScout. And we'll showcase a little bit of the media and the partnership ecosystem. If you want to work with us, how is it possible to connect and work? And then we'll finish with live demo and questions. So Canada, just to put in a context, 18.5 millions of hectares burned across Canada in 2023 alone. Just to kind of compare this with what is this size is it's half of Germany. Half of Germany burned in 2023 alone. And fire seasons are lengthening. They are not getting shorter or better. Intensity increases. BC South Coast snowpack is, as of now, after the winter, 53% of normal average. And by the time the fire is confirmed, the containment window is often gone. By the moment the fire we detect, even at the earliest moment, if we don't know, or if this will be remote area, if we don't know that those areas were prone to fire, the chances that we can do something about it are very, very low. And the cost of being late is, and I'll use a very colloquial statement, is just crazy. It's $10 billion for climate disasters in BC in 2021. Nearly 200 homes destroyed in McDougall Creek fire in 2023. The damage is done by the time you respond. The human cost, it's not only the money, more importantly, it's the human lives. We build societies, we build communities, we build our lives. And those lives, we might get funding to recover, to rebuild, but some of the things, some of our memories are just completely lost. 232,000 people were evacuated in 2023. Wildfire smoke reached the US East Coast. $400 million annually spent on post-fire operations in Canada. And 90% of that research focuses on detection. But we want to predict. We want to make sure that we understand how can we help the forest and the areas to improve before the fire season. And that will improve not only the forest, it will also improve our infrastructure, because the roads, railways, pipelines, they're all affected. There's tourism, forest revenue, health burden coming from smoke exposure, insurance market contraction. Redirecting 10% of that budget into prevention aspects, which our province is starting to look at, and we're deploying more tools, which I'm going to talk as well about it, can help us prevent 30 to 40% of fires annually. If we implement that technology and we learn more and we continuously improve, I'm pretty sure that we will never completely eradicate the wildfires, but we'll be able to act on them in a way that they don't cause so much harm to our communities. So province, recent disasters, heat dome in 2021 killed 619 people. Lytton, the city of Lytton, had a 49.6 degree of Celsius record temperature. There was atmospheric river floods. It moved into more fires. All of those events are cascading. Every wildfire creates so much damage to the forest and to the land that the risk of landslide, the risk of flooding is increased. So what can we do, and how should we treat that framework? The current detection falls short. When we look at the satellites images, we have 12-hour revisit time. We cannot detect fires that are less than 1.1 to 2 hectares in size. There's quite often cloud and smoke occlusion, so we don't see. There are companies that work on ground sensors, but there is limited number of sensors you can put. There's a maintenance cost. It's a point observation only. Even if we place sensors in the entire mountain, they're still reflecting singular points of observation. If we look at the manned aircrafts, there's so much cost related to that. They're weather dependent, they're reactive, not proactive. And with all of our climate initiative, the very important part, they burn lots of fuel, generating lots of carbon emissions. And BC, our geography in BC, the terrain amplifies every gap. Remote communities sometimes it takes hours before they get help, and vegetation diversity complicates modeling, the physical modeling of wildfires. So just a little bit of interactive audience questions to check if you're listening carefully, as I do with my students quite often. In 2021, what killed the most people in BC? Was it wildfires? Was it floods? Was it a heat dome? And you can post your answers in the chat. And again, there are no bad answers. It's always great to engage. And I see Elisa posted heat dome. Yes. So with wildfires, the effect creates lots of harm to our communities, to our infrastructure. Luckily, so far, there is not that much deaths related to wildfires, and hopefully we'll keep it this way. The heat and all the heats that then cascade other disasters, this is the most threatening human life event as of now. So when we look at our province and when we look even in Canada, we have a very strong response teams and very strong recovery teams. Canada has invested heavily in BC wildfire services, emergency coordination, emergency management, and climate readiness coordination. So the teams can be deployed. We are spending lots of money from emergency budgets to help people recover, and it's great. But there's a huge gap in prediction and prevention, knowing things before they happen, and we can do that. So even BC's 2026 Wildfire Preparedness Plan names predictive tools and technology as a priority. So when we look at this entire framework, what we're building at BCAT and what we try to achieve, this is what we see on the screen is obviously the perfect scenario. Hopefully in 10 years, I'll be discussing like that this is a live deployment and everything is working. So we can be talking about wildfire prediction, dynamic risks maps, risk zones and thresholds that feed into the integrated management system. We will have companies working on wildfire detection and real-time alerts that are under minute that can feed feedback into wildfire prediction about the thresholds. Is your dynamic risk map good enough? Should we update it? Then post the fires will happen. Post-fire operations will identify blind spots, things that we missed in our prediction and detection. It will help us validate and refine the model. So we're pretty good in having technology deployed in separate beans. So we treat those as 3 stages. We have prevention, we have detection, and we have post-fire operation as a prediction prevention. And companies quite often work in silos. They don't collaborate. And what we encourage at BCT is knowledge exchange. And I'm going to show also how this can be deployed into real products. So let's focus on the forecasting. In order to talk about it, I need you to understand that there's something in Canada called Canada Fire Weather System. It's operated by Natural Resources Canada, and it exposes daily fire danger maps for all of Canada. Uses the Fire Weather Index, which consists of fine fuel moisture, which is surface litter, DAF moisture, which is decomposing organic, and drought code, deep soil moisture. It all is tracked and calculated. When we use it in our system that I'm going to show in a moment, we integrate those fuel types with drone imagery to be able to map all 16 standard fuel types and link weather data, all the FWI information, all the geographical information into prediction models. CWFIS uses 2,500 weather stations daily, but the gap remains in remote BC. In prediction, when we integrate that fuel data, we can build high-risk zones. We incorporate traditional ecological knowledge. So we had lots of discussion with forestry managers. We had also discussion with indigenous groups, because knowledge exchange is the most important. We cannot build technology without learning from each other. And we also play with different color spaces. So we use RGB images, we test with log RGB and different color spaces that work better under smoke or let's say low angle sun. All of this was trained to build a system that could help us predict where the next fire will happen. So we collect drone images, we detect tree types, we classify our fire risk per tree, we build georeference orthomosaics, we have some aggregation, and we're building color-coded risk maps with green to red from low risk to extreme risk of the flammability. So it's not the fire that we're detecting, it's the risk of the area. And then when we have those risks in the area, we're able to talk to municipal partners, to insurance companies, to developers, to federal partners, to companies like, look, if you will work on this debris or on those dead vegetation in those areas that we're indicating, prioritize those before fire season and clean up those areas, you will be able to reduce your fire season risk by X amount of percent. Then moving to discuss a little bit on the detection aspect. How does the drone see the fire? So when we look at the drones, and being very also transparent. Please don't fly drones over fires yourself. Those are special permissions when drones are flying over the fires. They capture images with 1 to 5 frames per second, and each frame consists obviously of millions of pixels with GPS tags. AI scans each frame in a grid and tries to detect the smoke or ignition sources. Then that detection maps can be posted and validated against the prediction phase and the maps that we're generating in our systems. Think about it as a Google Maps meet medical imaging, but built for forecasts or for forests, sorry, forecasting the wildfires for forests. And in order to do that real-time detection, we need to have something that is called edge devices. The edge devices are small sensors or small computing power systems that are placed close. It's not on a drone, but let's say in the forest, that are able to calculate some of the risks and coordinate information. And I see some comments in the chat. I will address those in a few seconds. We also test different things as thermal versus optical. So optical sees the color, shape, and textures, best for species ID and fuel classification, but there is obviously struggles in smog and no line. When we run with the thermal, we can see the heat, which allows us to detect hotspots and smoldering under the different canopy. So we can play with the fusion of data with optical and thermal to see the full picture. And to answer also why to not process some of it on the drone, the 4K video needs around 100 plus megabits per second to be sent to the server, and there's a latency. If we process on the drone, we will probably lose the drone because the chip, the computing power on the drone would be overridden. So what we do, we need to have some lightweight models and send to cameras on the edge to not overload everything. We've done studies related to different number of frames that we need to send, and we're playing, and that's their part of the research we're doing at BCAT as well. Talking about our BCAT drone fleet, we have different platforms, we have different sensor payloads, so we can play with different needs from different people. And at the end, we can do in stage 3 post-fire assessment, where we can see how does the wildfire cause vegetation loss, where are the increased flood risks, where are the increased landslide risks, is there an infrastructure failure, there's a watershed erosion, debris flow. All of this is visible. Whatever the camera can see, our models can adjust, and our models can see what's happening. So in the perfect world, again, we would envision this as this entire research that has not only the wildfire, but complete disaster management infrastructure monitoring. We have wildfire management track. We have infrastructure monitoring track. We have cross-domain intelligence. All of this can provide outputs to early warning system, predictive risks maps, maintenance scheduling, municipality reports, etc., etc. So, and I'm going to skip a few slides. And I'm going to first answer the question in the chat. I'm wondering how this process is different from the provincial strategic threat analysis data. Understand a new data set is about to be available using different parameters. So I'm going to have a live demo in 10 minutes, more or less, where I will discuss step by step how our process looks like. I think that the most important innovation comes from multimodality, and that we can have visual data, we can have data from ground sources, we can have weather data, geospatial data. All of this plays a part of in the algorithm that calculates and analyzes which areas require the maintenance, which areas require some of the help. So quick question to audience. Your remote community gets one system. You can't afford all three. What do you cut? What would you do if you would be able to do decision, what would you cut? So cut prediction, cut detection, or cut assessment? It's a really tough question. And we had discussions in the academic setting. We had discussion with our municipal partners. And when this question was asked, there's lots of discussion. I wonder if anyone can comment on this in the chat. There is no good scenario. Obviously, we would love to have all of three.
These are hard options to juggle. I'm not going to lie.
Definitely.
It definitely is hard to think of what you would like to focus, because cutting prediction and focusing on detecting fires once they start and assessing damage after doesn't feel like it's preventative. Cutting detection doesn't feel like it is like community focused, like community safety focused, especially if your response time is slower. Obviously, that puts people in danger. And then cutting the assessment. Well, how do you know where to allocate and what to do if you're not looking at it? So this is definitely a complex problem here.
And this is the one of those questions that, cut C first and B second. That's Hugh. Okay. All of whatever we cut, it's a bad decision, because the point of this question, the point of this academic discussion is we really need to have all three. Currently, when we look at Canada, we don't have that much invested in prediction, and we're trying to advocate for that, because when you have only detection assessment, it always comes with lots of costs, because even if you detect early, the response time might be slower. You don't know where those things happen. And then assessment is always costing lots of money. So there's no good answer. I'm bringing this question as academic, this curse, just to understand you really need those three phases balanced and working together to be able to efficiently and effectively work with fires. So let's look at the live system and some of the screenshots before I will actually open it and we'll play with it. So let's look how we analyze all of this. We fly the drones over some area. Let's say at the bottom, we see Google Earth view and those dots are the points from the drones that collected data. We analyze all of the information, all of those yellow things and brown, not on this image, but all of those like polygons, the weird, I'll call it weird shapes, are specific points of interest. And our points of interest are dead trees, debris, beetle impacted trees, dried out trees, something that is unhealthy about the forest, and it can be dealt with. And when we apply this and add all of the other sensory data, we can build a heat map saying like, okay, in this area, we need to be able to do something. There's no fire now, but if the fire would start, it will translate to very, very damaging situation that will affect our communities. When we add different risk factors such as fuel moisture, fuel flammability, weather risk, terrain risk, historical fires, we can see that, for example, for the Logan Lake, and that data from the image that I'm having on screenshot was from May 4th, you see that the risk for that area were really, really high. No active fire, but the conditions are forming. The red zones, we should play with a fuel reduction. South-facing slopes, maybe we should have some evacuation planning, because whenever, maybe updated plans, because whenever the fire will start, we know which direction it can go. And some can say, okay, but this is all predicting. How do you know that this works? And we work with the SkyScout technology over many years now, or many years, maybe probably too big of a word. From 2020, there's a research done, and then now product is available from the beginning of the year. And what we were lucky in unlucky situation, we were able to run our models in Lytton early spring before the fire season. We detected that 55% of areas had extreme fire risk, 25% had high risk, 15% moderate risk, and 5% low risk. When The really bad event, and I want to really pause here, what's most important is not the destroyment of the houses or insurance losses, but 2 people lost their lives, and this is never to be recovered. 4 years later, only one business was rebuilt. We collected the data after that summer from the Sentinel-2, which is our Canadian satellite, and we measured the severity of the damage. And when you see that it validated that our prediction models showed if you don't deal with some of those areas, you will end up in a really, really bad situation. So 68% had high severity of destroy or total loss, 18% severe damage, 4% moderate damage, 10% light damage, few percent was undamaged. When you see they correlate, we can see those areas and we can tell you, you need to do something about those areas before the fire season starts. You need to work with the fuels. Maybe you can do prescribed burning. Maybe you do cleanup. Maybe you do some evacuation planning that are updated based on the risks areas to be able to help the communities. So what is available today is this AI-driven wildfire fuel risk mapping. We are working on the real-time drone-based detection. So we'll be placing the drones with DJI station in the areas, the point of prioritizing those areas, showing like those are the most risky areas. It's not only the preventative actions that you can take. Let's say if you know that 10 areas out of 25 areas in or 25 neighborhoods for your firefighters are at the higher risks, make sure that resources are closer to those areas at the highest risks. Because whenever something starts, even if we have early detection system, you need to be close to that situation. And in the future, and future as close as next year, we will have a modeling of the cascading risk of post-fire floods, slope instability, and we are aligning those with provincial and national priorities. There's a video of the entire system in Global BC Curious Minds. If someone wants to see, I'm happy to refer to that. There is some other coverage. It's all published in research. This is the best what academia can do, work on real problem, generate some knowledge and apply it to really help to make a change. So I am going to discuss first the demo, and then I'm going to come back on the collaboration perspective. So let me just stop sharing for 1 second, check if my screen is okay. Everything was good. So this is the live demo and everyone can access it. It's dashboard.skyscoutai.com. And there are 10 locations. Those are like demo pilot projects that we've done with some communities that you can preview. And this is all live data. So let's say we go to our Logan Lake that we were discussing, opening the location that you saw in the screenshot. And this is the preview of the image that is collected from the drone. You can see the image. What's most important is we don't need to collect those drone images on a daily, even weekly basis. If we collect that drone image every month, 2 or even 3 flights in the year, it's enough, because it's not like the forest will suddenly change day to day. We will see changes only if there's a fire or if there's a real mitigation prevention strategies, etc., etc. So you can go to different locations. You can preview that some of those locations are closer to communities. And what's most important, we can run our custom AI data to see which specific areas have the most risks. So when we go to different locations, you will see that we are highlighting specific areas that need to be dealt with. And on top of this modality of visual data, we are adding the ground sensors data. So we are adding information about the fuel moisture from FWI index. We are adding the dead vegetation debris density. We have weather risks, so we see how much precipitation was, what's the temperature, what's the humidity, what are the terrain risks, if the slope is south facing, if it's a higher angle slope, what's the elevation. All of this is done in collaboration with forestry managers and people that work researchers working on wildfires to generate that additional knowledge. Historical fires in the area. So we see 2018, 162 hectares, 2021, 62,000 acres burned. So all of this is included here. And based on all of this information, you can see that there are some areas that are in a good shape or good health, which, for example, is good for the community, even with singular points of interest. But there are areas that are too close to community that we might want to adjust, we might want to work with. And there is another thing that we can showcase here is we collect all of the sensors. So you see we are able to show the weather risks. We are able to show the fire danger information. We can display active fires that are, so sometimes this is the live demo, the active fires that are present currently in our communities. As you can see, quite a lot of them are under control. Saskatchewan, we had discussion, and as you can see in the northern parts, there's lots of out of control fires. When you zoom in, you can see what's happening. We do collect this also for United States, so we have information about the active fires in US and the ground sensors data that is there. We see all the hotspots where we collect the data. Now, why I open this is you can run your custom analysis. So if you're a company working or municipal partner, and I know that there were recent announcements, there's lots of, and that will be my call to action. There was lots of announcement from BC province. There are funds for the wildfire prevention, for fuel mapping, for fuel cleanup. So with that tool, what can happen is, for example, those are some test projects that I'm going to display. You can see all of the hotspots on the map. So when you run your points of interest, and you will detect some specific trees or some specific fuel types that need to be dealt with, let's say dead tree. This is a very urban area, but if we will look into some wildland urban interface, you will get all of those points of interest highlighted. We'll build a heat map, and you'll be able to display it on the Google Earth plugin. So you can specifically send a crew and say, hey, there is this park nearby the community and there's lots of debris. Can you deal with it? This is a direct danger to your community. This is direct danger to what is happening. So just showing different locations. So you can see at every single location, specific Google Earth overlap, specific points of interest, and etc. etc. So this is the SkyScout tool, and this is the wildfire prediction tool, and this can help us map all the fuels. So let me open, for example, Sea to Sky Highway. There's an area close to the water, to the lake, but there's so much debris and so many dead trees that should be dealt with. As you can see, we can highlight them all. We can place them as labels on the map using computer vision. This is to speed up processes. Human being probably would be able to do the same, but it probably would take them 10 years to analyze some vast amount of areas. When we run computer vision AI, it just does it within a day, and you have all the information, which areas should be dealt with, which areas have higher flammability risk in the event of fire. So coming back to wrap up with few slides, at BCT, we have Master of Science in Applied Computing. We run our MyTax umbrella. This is one of the biggest disaster management grants. Whenever you want to work with us, you have some projects, we can have 50% government co-funding with very fast approval time. This is mostly to work with students or early graduates. If you want somebody to be placed at your company that could help with your kind of disaster management processes, 50% of their salary can be co-funded thanks to this government MyTax Umbrella Fund. We work with different partners. We work the demo SkyScout AI. They do all of the fuel mapping. So if you're in the business of need fuel mapping, flammability risk, dynamic maps of the area, what needs to be dealt with this year or next year before the fire season, we'll be happy to help. We work with Spexy Geospatial. They help us collect the imagery from drones. Indra Robotics helps us build autonomous UAVs. Fireswarm works on heavy lifted drones, and that can take water from lakes and drop directly on fire. And Avestec is the company that allows us to sometimes work on custom hardware drone integration. We have talent pipeline, and we are happy to collaborate. So any geospatial analysis and risk mapping companies, any community vulnerability assessment, traditional ecological knowledge, post-fire watershed monitoring, evacuation road optimization, all of those companies, non-for-profits, municipalities, hospital, any organization with an R&D challenge qualifies for that funding. So coming back to the dashboard and opening the room for questions, that's the presentation for the wildfire prevention tools and use cases that we are building at BCT. We're really happy that we can work with partners like SkyScout, Spexy, Indra Robotics, Fireswarm Solutions, all of those that bring our, the hope that the wildfires will not be as devastating as they are right now. So happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. That was so informative. I learned so much, and we're deeply grateful for the time that you've spent here. I have a couple of questions to lead us off. Please, if anybody wants to drop any questions in the chat, I'll prioritize yours above mine. Just take your time, write them out, or raise a hand if you'd like to speak up. We always love to hear other people's voices as well. I think you answered this in the last slide when you were talking about the different other organizations that you partner with around your technology. But if you could elaborate a little more, are these individually manned drones, or are they programmed drones that cover and survey specific areas that are mapped out?
Thank you. That's a great question. So whenever a company comes to us, or some municipal partner or federal partner, and they say, let's say we own the winery in Summerland or Peachland, or there's something in Penticton, we would like you to basically fly to do a risk assessment of this area that I'm highlighting. For no reason, there is no specific client there, as this is just an example. What we would do is we are going to send our pilots to fly drones. They do this within 1 day, depends on the area size, but we work in areas of 10,000 acres, sometimes smaller projects like 1,000, 2,000 acres. We talked with partners. Those are much larger, of course, projects. Let's say if there's some entire watershed analysis, this is 60,000 acres of land. And we can fly drones, obviously, within day, few days, few weeks, depends on the area size. We then upload everything to our servers, where our proprietary algorithms AI analyzes all the fire risk, all the information. And what you're going to get is, rather than dashboard SkyScout AI, you'll get, let's say, penticton.skyscoutai.com, or you're going to get climateready.skyscoutai.com, your own dashboard, your own watch, where you'll be able to see the risks, where you're going to see all of the collected data, all of the information. You're going to see that, let's say, your threat level for that location is at low. The points of interest are, as you can see, we're detecting there's some dead tree here in the middle of the, and there are two horses. I didn't even notice them before. So those are the things that, let's say there's a railway close by. If you don't, this is a small risk. It's a single tree. And as you will see, our algorithm will tell you, okay, the heat map looks pretty decent. There are some small points of interest that you probably want to deal with. Even on the further aspect, you can see some dead trees furthermore. this area looks pretty healthy. Your fire risk is really low. But then you will move to some other area that might have more of those points of interest, and we'll build a heat map, and you will see suddenly, okay, there are some areas that you might want to deal with before the fire season because there's lots of things happening, not only the ones that you see, but also coming from the other risk factors that are present here.
And these are taken through static high altitude photos rather than a video surveying back and forth. Like I'm thinking of the way that they survey like deep water and stuff like that.
Yes, I'm honestly not an expert in deep water surveying, so I'm not going to refer to or compare, but it's basically drone flying, taking multiple stills of high resolution, high definition resolution, then collecting and building the georeference orthogonal images that you can basically preview on spot, on points, every single location. Once we have it, the computer vision analyzes those images, and then all of the risk factors are being, and I probably didn't mention that, so the visual is collected once per some period of time, but the risk factors are updated daily. So when you look at the risk trends, you see 30 days every day, how they were changing, what were the most important factors that, let's say, overall risk was increased because the weather, there was no rain for a few days and the temperatures were higher. So all of those risks are mapped out for you in the system.
And this actually leads into my second question. You talked about how priority areas are surveyed more often, but they don't need to be surveyed like weekly. I'm wondering, like, what's the difference between the frequency of like surveying priority areas versus like a general survey? And then I'm also wondering, like, do droughts alter your AI scans? Like, do they increase the dryness? Is that something that you predict, like you just use the weather tool? Or like, do you scale those moisture models into it? Or do you have to go take a new, like if there's like an extreme drought, would you go do a new survey or would you be modeling it off of the previous?
So the first question, they were so long that I need to remind myself.
Timing of the priority versus non-priority areas.
The surveying is the same because it's you can of course fly a little more often the survey the areas of a high priority, but most likely they won't change that much. It's more that you know which areas you need to prioritize to deploy resources or to do preventive measures. And this is most important. So if we come to the contract with somebody and say, we'll fly your area 3 times, you'll get access for 12 months to see that tool, to see what's happening, then you will be able to see the data daily on all the areas, the high priority areas, the low priority areas, and you will see them prioritized in the system that those areas you need to deal with. It's not that the drone needs to be flying more often. What I was referring, eventually, once we'll have the drones that can be deployed to autonomously fight the fires, such as the ones that are built by Fireswarm Solutions, then you will place those drones closer to those high priority areas because they can be deployed much faster. But for surveying perspective, it's the same frequency. It just gives you the information which areas are the most important.
Brilliant. And those deployed zone, like the drones that help battle fire, like the fires, they would be almost like a robotic. This is like, I'm trying to keep it as general as possible, like almost like a robotic vacuum, and it knows where to go. It's kind of intuitive, not something that's like manned drone, like manned. Unmanned. There we go. We actually have a really great question in the chat. Do you have to fly the drones to collect the imagery, or is there a way that you can use like crowdsourced imagery or imagery that's already available?
So there are 2 ways that we can approach it. Obviously, if there's a good quality drone imagery, we can use it. But by good quality is when we fly drones, you can zoom in up to 3 centimeters and you can see the single rocks that are on the beach. So this is the quality that we're referring. Now, if you can provide us with that data, we can definitely run our algorithms, run our analysis. We are building also, as part of SkyScout, the crowdsourcing tool that we'll try to deploy to all people really into hiking, climate change, helping nature, helping preserve all of the natural resources. So there'll be a mobile app that when you are in the park and you see there's, let's say, debris or broken tree or some dried up tree, or you think that this area is not that great and you just want to scan it, you will open our app, you will do 360 circle, upload the image. Our system will tell if this is a valid image, if this is a good georeference image, and if there is some points of interest like dead trees or some aspects that need to be dealt with, and we'll automatically place it in our system. So the goal is we're going to publish the application this summer to encourage people to use it, to encourage people to, play with it, help us crowdsource all of the data for the wildfire prevention management. And leading a little bit to your second part of the question quickly that you ask, when there's a drought and when there are some other conditions, we'll see this all from the other risk factors, other ground sensor data. There's no need for us to recollect image on a daily basis if there's 2 weeks drought. The tree itself has a very good root system. It won't dry out in 2 weeks. It will probably dry out if there's no rain for 2-3 months, but then we will definitely have another flight in that time range.
What about the expanded technology that's on the drones? Do you guys employ LiDAR yet? Is that something that you would be interested in employing in these drones?
We are testing multi-sensor data. We collect sometimes LiDAR data as well, but our big aspect is we want to make it as easy as possible to process. So when you think about how big Canada is and how big some of other countries are, when we look at the map, we had 10 projects which don't even cover that much area. Now, in order to deploy LiDAR or point clouds or multi-sensor data, the analysis time increases, the cost increase. We want to make it accessible. We want to be able to say, hey, you really want to help us? Fly drones, collect data in that area. We'll analyze it, just pure RGB. We don't need to collect different sensor data for this project to be able to spot some of the things. And most importantly, this gives you idea about the assessment of the entire area. It's not that sometimes we will miss maybe 1-2 trees out of 10 trees that are, not in a good shape, but still we'll pinpoint the area that you need to deal with, that you will see those other aspects that we maybe didn't highlight, but the area itself as the entire area was notified as a higher risk.
So your plans of expansion are definitely something that's more of a user-oriented tool, accessible and easy to apply in a multitude of situations then.
Yes, so we definitely our partners can be really anyone. So when we look, and I'll just open quickly the SkyScout AI website, we can work with municipalities and local governments for proactive protection with strategic resource positioning. We work First Nation Indigenous government to do some community controlling of their sites. Quite often they do some logging. Maybe they want to preserve some of those, resources that they also have revenue from. Federal, state, and provincial agencies, emergency management, utilities, industrial critical infrastructure, forestry, tourism, resorts, insurance, real estate. So all of those things can definitely use some wildfire risk management. So we think about it. We have Fire Smart, or in parks we see the fire risk. Quite often when you go to park and there's moderate fire risk or something, or there's the ban for the campfires because of that. But this is just from the weather data. If we think about our system that brings you much more information, and it's not just working for BC parks or provincial parks, but it works for any area, you'll be able to see that indicator of the area, and if your community needs to be also more alert to the current situation.
And I think that that's a beautiful way to collectively look at all of its uses. But one thing that I think that might have been missing is an opportunity that we love to talk about here. How can this be utilized as an advocacy tool towards either on that local level with your municipality, or maybe an educational advocacy tool around understanding things like traditional land management and traditional burning?
Yeah, and this is a great point. So we notice that let's say, the system can give you proactive advice, like, okay, this area has so much brush overgrown. There's no way you can cut it. And there's like 1,000 acres. You need to do prescribed burning to enable regrowth, a fresh growth of the area. So we work with one indigenous group and we highlighted the fuel that they need to burn. And this is one of the risks that, our province, and not to put any bad light on the province, but there was a certain moment we banned completely the prescribed burning. Now we're coming back to it. It wasn't a good decision. So, if something was working over 100 years, let's adjust it, let's fine tune it, but let's not completely flip the script, because that sometimes doesn't work. And I see the question in the chat.
I was just about to ask, are you interested to collaborate with university and research in the research part of the work?
Yes, definitely. We're always feel free to find me on LinkedIn, connect on LinkedIn. I'm going to put my university email in the chat as well. Obviously discussion needs to happen, but we're open to any collaborations.
Well, wonderful. I honestly could ask you a million questions, but we're almost at the top of the hour. So I'll give a moment. If anybody else has any other questions, feel free to unmute and ask your question.
And while waiting for a question, I'll just end, because there will be audience that will be watching this video afterwards. We're more than happy to do a live demo. If you want to call us, if you want to connect with us, either from university or from SkyScout, we're happy to tell you how can we help you, how the demo and the pilot study could look like for your organization, and go from there. So that's the biggest aspect. We want to show you the benefits before you commit to anything.
Well, thank you, Michał. This was absolutely wonderful. Everybody, thank you for joining us. If you're just catching the last of this, this is Michał Ibin from SkyScout AI Innovations. Deep well of gratitude for you joining us today. We will be posting this on YouTube as well. So thank you for everybody for coming out today.
Thank you very much. Have a great day, everyone.